Yeah, there it is. There's that magic recording in progress. No worries in that. And so this is our August meeting of the DRAC group, which is the Dispute Resolution Advisory Committee. And our first one is introductions, and I know we have some new staff more than anybody, so if we want to do a quick round of staff to introduce themselves who haven't been part of this group before. You're still not getting your audio.
Better?
That's better.
Okay. I'm not entirely new, but I haven't been to one of these meetings in a long time. I'm Carrie Hoda. I'm with OHCS in the manufactured home replacement program. But I am sitting in today to help keep up with what's happening with the dispute resolution program, the mandatory mediation in particular, as I'm assisting Rick with some of the grants that are happening, specifically the one-time administrative one. I'll be helping him write that up, and so I want to make sure that I'm up to speed on what's happening with this committee and what the needs are with the dispute resolution centers.
Great. Well, welcome. And
Thank you.
you want to say hi there, Judy? And
hi, everybody. I'm Judy, program analyst for Manufactured Homes Marinas Community Resource Center. I'm brand new. May 16th, I started. So hopefully this meeting will go very well.
I'm sure it will. And that. And then, like I said, I'm Brian Grunke from Resolve. I do the Southern Oregon portion and represent one of the CDRCs, non-governmental. So, Angela?
Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Garvin, and I advocate for floating home owners who rent their slip in marinas. I'm also on OSTA, the Oregon State Tenants Association, and serve there as the marinas director.
Great. Pat?
I'm Pat Wachter. I manage Par Acres in Woodburn, Oregon, and I'm sort of at the landlord end of things and learning a lot. Started this year. And I'm so sorry about the fires at the marina and the Dalles. Terrible.
Patrick?
Good morning, everyone. Sorry about my camera. Hopefully it'll pop on here in a little bit. Working on it. My name is Patrick Sponsler. I'm with the Oregon Office for Community Dispute Resolution, housed at the UO School of Law, and I interact with and work with all the dispute resolution centers across the state.
Ken?
Yeah, I'm Ken Pryor, and I'm the program coordinator for the MMCRC program, and interface with Patrick and, of course, all the CDRCs, and also coordinate landlord training.
Did you want to jump on there, Joe, and say hi?
Hi, everybody. I'll just remain a ghost in the background. Judy is taking over assisting the group, and I'm just here for moral support.
Great. And Alexandria.
Hi there, folks. I'm Alexandra. I'm a member of our government relations team here at Oregon Housing and Community Services, and I work with our homeownership division.
Great. And so with that, do we have any public input that was received to the office?
I don't have anything.
Okay. And with that, we can move on to the minutes then from our last special meeting, which was back on April 6th.
We had that special meeting on May 10th.
May 10th, excuse me, yes. Thank you.
I was looking for those minutes earlier today. Can someone point me in the direction of what date those were sent out? Because I couldn't find them in my giant emails.
And I don't know if it's helpful, Angela, but if you get a calendar invite, I found them inside my calendar invite as well. That might be another spot to look.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna mention. They were in the calendar invite, so. We're actually looking at the May 10th meeting minutes.
Miss Garvin, I did attach all the minutes to the invite, but I can send them to you if you would like separately.
And any additions, corrections to the May 10th?
I don't have any to offer other than John's always the one that has a whole bunch and he's not here, so noting that.
Yeah,
So, so the meeting agenda for today says review and approval of April meeting minutes, but we're doing May.
I'm believing that is a typo. I was just gonna double check. If we needed to approve both, if we actually do
Hi,
it.
Joe here. Sorry for the interruption. So the May 10 special meeting, we approved them via email in the hopes that we could get those posted to have the timing align with the submission of the legislative concept. But if you would like to go over those and just officially approve them today, but primarily it's the April regular meeting minutes that need your approval today.
Thanks for that clarification. So the May 10th meeting was approved by email membership. And so what we missed was the April minutes. If folks have had a chance to look over any additions or corrections to the April minutes.
Is it possible to maybe pause on that for a moment? Because I haven't seen the email come
No,
through.
that's fine.
Okay.
That's also in that a calendar invite.
Yeah, I looked at all my calendar invites and I don't see any attachments. I have a
Okay.
Mac, so that might be part of it.
No worries. The other one is if Judy, if you wanted to scroll down and people can read them off the screen share as well.
Okay. I'll do that.
And for those who don't have it, 5 is a rather long one, so she can. There's nothing in the part that's showing. She can scroll down and we can get the rest of the 5.
This is Angela here. What I'm determining is that I possibly may have completely missed the April meeting. I remember being very busy this spring, so it's possible that I missed this one. And so I just go ahead without me on approval.
It did say you were absent under the.
Okay, good.
So you are remembering correctly.
Okay, I was like, this is not familiar to me.
And with that, if there's someone would like to make a motion, if there's no discussion, make a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion for,
Wishing, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, wishing John was here, but I will put a motion for approval forward.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Great, and all in favor of an aye, or a raising of hands
I,
for the members? Great. And with it, I'm gonna pause. I see we have another attendee here. And ask if you want to unmute yourself and say hi and who you are.
Hi, I'm Shauna McDonough. I'm sorry, I am the new program analyst with Mobile Home Parks at Oregon Housing and Community Services. I just started Monday. I work with
That's
Carrie.
okay. It's a mouthful. Welcome.
Sorry,
No apologies.
I'm late. Thanks.
Great, welcome. Nat, and so with that, we have approval of the minutes, and with that, we can go into the legislative updates with Alexandria.
Hey there, folks. So actually it's not that exciting, but we do have the LC back that we discussed at the last minute meeting in May. If I could share my screen so that I can let you guys review it. It is not a very long legislative concept, so this will become the bill that we put forward to the legislature to extend the task force. It is maybe 10 lines in total, but we want to give you guys the chance to review it before we give our legislative concept drafter the chance to finalize it. So let me go ahead and share my screen. This is the bill in its entirety. So very short, simply extending it to January 2nd of 2027. No other changes to your statute other than an extension of the date. And you can see that change here in the change from 2024 to 2027. Any questions? Great. I think that's really my only update. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. We do have legislative days coming up, but that really, those will just be informational hearings on whatever committees are interested in. And then legislative session starts at the end of January. Yes, Patrick.
Thanks. It's pretty bare bones, but has John had a chance to review that legislative concept?
He has not. We were working under the assumption that he would be here today, but I will go ahead and send this over to him.
That would be great. That would just want to make sure he gets his eyes on it too.
He is on a family vacation and does not have internet until the 12th, I think he said. So you can try to send it to him. He might touch base, but if you don't hear from him for a while, that is what is happening.
That is what is happening. Okay, I will send it to him. Our drafter, unfortunately, I believe goes out on paternity leave sometime this month. It is just the absolute chaos. Got like 4 people out on paternity leave right now, or headed towards paternity leave. So we will, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
If not, we'll have a chance to make any kind of changes at a later date.
Great.
Perfect, folks. That's it for me.
Okay. And one, Alexandra, is there a report due to this year, or is it the next year? I always get.
I believe it is due this September. Because we had incorrect documentation of whether it was due in even or odd numbered years, we got to start on it last year, but we'll go ahead and revise that and contact members of committee to do the final review of that report, probably sometime this month.
That's what I was thinking. It was September and that. And will that get sent out to the membership as well as that draft, or I'm not sure who you have as a contact on how that
works.
Yeah, making the assumption being that it's a report on our activities, it'd be nice to at least.
Yeah.
Surprise.
So I know it goes at least to yourself, Brian, but I think it goes to the other members of the committee. I do believe we are required or are going to include little blurbs about members of the committee, as well as current progress. And I think really it's the current progress that needs updating from the last time we submitted a report.
Yeah, because I know we have some new members to get introduced in that, and
yeah,
he's great. So no, I will be on the lookout for that. That was the other piece of that.
Perfect.
And I know there was the discussion item 5 on the update of the judges, which we'll hold until next month. And I think that brings us to membership, and I know Pat is our newest representative, and where we're at as far as getting that diversity of I think we were hoping to get someone from the education side as well, and I guess looking down through the bylaws to see who we're supposed to have, which I think is why that got included. And it says we won't have more than 19. That we're supposed to be made up of the geographic representation of all regions. And an equal number of representatives of landlords, facilities, or their advocates, and representatives of tenants of facilities and or their advocates. So I guess one would be some Eastern Oregon representation. And with that, Kara, I know, aren't there some newer community-owned communities over on the east side that you guys have helped create, or am I getting this confused? I thought they were like far northeastern Oregon. There was some a new community that was established and started, and I just getting totally confused of a newer manufactured community over there. Or Ken, I don't know if you're aware of.
I think there was one that was created specifically for veterans. But I don't recall exactly the name of it, but that's what I can recall.
I don't
Yeah.
know any parts that anything, I haven't been made aware of anything over there.
You're a little soft card.
I haven't been made aware of any new parks or anything yet. The only new one that I knew was gonna be in Albany, but that became a condominium park. They built condominiums instead.
Yeah, no, it was in the last, when I'm saying new, it wasn't like in the last 12 months, in the last like 3 or 4 years, I thought
Oh, okay.
they were
No,
the newer.
I haven't heard anything.
one.
The veterans, there's a veterans village in Bend, but that I think was tiny homes.
And I've been here for almost 2.5 years and I haven't heard anything.
And I guess it would be if there's any outside of the new one, any current or other communities that any of the office, your Oregon Housing has had contact with to help find a way to maybe recruit actually representatives from both over on the east side of the mountains would be nice. And
both Shauna and I live in Bend. I've been in contact with Lynn, I think it's McConnell. She's the director of the affordable housing division of the city of Bend. So I'm trying to recruit her for at least one of our committees, because I think there's an underrepresentation on this side of the Cascades in manufactured housing. So if I can get her to commit to one or get one of her team members to one or both, I'm trying. Or recommendations for, the county has also an affordable housing committee and division. So if this committee is looking for that too, I can kind of put a bug in her ear about that if you'd like.
no, definitely, because like you said, it is we don't have any representation from that side. And also, I know there's a couple different communities in Klamath Falls might be a option as well, but would definitely like to keep keep that on the burner and to keep it actively recruiting, because one, we're far from 19, so maxing out our membership is not the issue. It's just that constant piece of pushing for help to get the diversity of the representation. And so it could be tenants or owners or either side. Anybody, you know, Pat, as far as the east side?
Oh, these, no. I don't.
Okay, well, we'll just keep that on the radar then. And keep trying to find those additional ones from all of us. And same with Angela through OSTA and that, if putting that word out would be great. And I think we've already hit on the legislative reports piece. And any updates, Ken? I noticed you had sent out a document on the manufacturer, on the floating homes just prior to the meeting. There it is.
Yeah, I wanted to just give you an opportunity if we're supposed to discuss it, I think, as one of the issues. So I wanted everyone to have it, peruse it, and it's been up for actually several months, but I don't know, it's a bit lengthy. I don't know how much time we want to spend on it, but it's there to view. We've had attorneys review it, so we have, we feel comfortable that it's accurate. It's been introduced and used by several of the attorneys that work with MHCO. We haven't received any negative feedback from any of the attorneys. We did have some dissent from a landlord, but other than that, it's there. And do we want to discuss it now or later in the agenda?
I think we can probably hit it now while we're there if we want.
I'd love to weigh in on it, and how we've been using it at OSTA, and it's been an incredible resource for tenants. This is the only current document of its kind in existence to help people understand statute. I mean, if you've ever read the statute, it's confusing and it cross-references other statutes. And the way I've been using it is for the website, when we have people write in tenants in need that are struggling. This covers the entire statute. So whatever their issue is, whether it's a pet issue or a rent increase issue or a problem with posting a flyer about their tenant group, it's so nice to be able to have a link that I can email to somebody and say, hey, take a look at page 10. This is statute ORS 90 point whatever. And it tells you, it gives you a great introduction to the important part of that statute. You will need to go into the actual law if you want to read more. And if you're interested in, writing a letter to your landlord or, to stand up for your rights, you'd have to go into the actual law, but this is such a great primer. And other organizations have written things like this. The Legal Aid has one, somebody else has one, but they have not been updated in several years. So this has been incredible. And it's not quite like this. This has, just heads up, there's a important law and here is what it is and here's what it's about. And the feedback I've gotten when I've sent the link to this document, the longer document, the 20-some page document, is, wow, that is what I'm looking for. I didn't know this existed. This is a really big help for me and my community as we're trying to figure out what our rights are. And we'll be discussing this in our resident meeting, that kind of feedback. So it's been really, really great. I've probably used it a dozen times already since it went live.
Ken, I'm with that. I'm assuming there's another one that addresses the.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's, if you kind of flip through the document, the areas that are specifically applying to floating homes have been highlighted. Everything else applies to both to manufactured homes. But we did create a special document for floating homes because that was the original intent, was to build something that, you know, landlords and trainers could look at, and just to make sure that they felt that issues were being addressed. And therefore, we also created one for manufactured homes. But if you want to see the differences, you really have to scroll through the document to find a shaded area that applies specifically to to marinas. So you can see 98% of it applies to marinas as well, but this just illuminates that more. And for the the new players that marinas are, we thought it was justified to create the two sets.
Yeah, just as a reminder, prior to 2022, this year, many marina landlords didn't even know that the second half of Chapter 90 existed or that they had to comply with it. So a lot of our rental agreements have lots of violations and terms that are prohibited by ORS. And so, this is just a great way to just help tenants understand what these laws mean, and also to help landlords understand, what laws they have to comply with. It can be used for both sides. I just happen to have more contact with tenants than I do with landlords.
Well,
But
no, I think that's pretty universal. All landlords have attorneys on retainer.
Yeah.
So, and with the there's a large deluge of new owners and park sales taking place. So no, it's been very helpful in that area as well. So you really have to search for the areas that are specifically marinas, but they're there. I think if you go all the way down to the last page, you'll see one on page 22 or whatever. Oh, you passed one. There it is.
Yeah.
And so we, it initially it started out as an addendum or an annex to for landlord trainers, but we thought it was so universally applicable, we just made it an addendum to the buying and selling documents that we created initially. And that way we were assured that it would get out, as opposed to just sending it to trainers. Trainers may or may not adopt some of these issues, or they cover, I think, the vast majority of things. They have a different, perhaps, perspective in the way they present information. But now that it's attached to buying and selling, they're obligated to give a copy to the buyer and the seller.
I think one of the nice things about this particular document and the way it evolved is that the final version is really quoting the actual statute. It's not an opinion. It's not, you know, like a lot of these other documents from legal aid and Oregon Law Center, those are great documents too, but they are written where, you know, it's an interpretation of the words that the statute actually says. And so if you have a slightly different nuance to your situation, sometimes those translations aren't necessarily 100% applicable. And so what we tried to do is, you know, take the big long law that might be, you know, 5 or 6 pages. Well, you know, of that, in terms of the issues that tenants are facing, we extracted the statutes and quoted them verbatim. And then if there is any ambiguity, there's usually a note at the end that says, hey, by the way, don't forget about this other statute, or, you know, what this, you know, not like a what this means, but just kind of a, hey, hello. Like, for instance, this one right here on the screen, number 22, that's the title of the statute in bold letters. And then it says, where do we go? Can you go up a little bit? Maybe it was up, maybe I misspoke. Oh, that's a long one. Anyway, we've tried to just do different things. So here we go. Sale of a dwelling on home on rented space and causes of action. So that's actually 2 different statutes that make up all the rules about selling a home on rented space. And so that's the actual title of the statute. And then in the parentheses, it just says, hey, by the way, tenants have the right to sell their home in place and cannot be required to move it when selling their floating homes. Also, there are landlord penalties for violations. And so then from there, it just quotes the law so that you know exactly what is required by the landlord and what the responsibility is of the tenant to notify the landlord, back and forth. And so it's just, I think it's unambiguous. It's very clear as to what the statute says. And again, it's just a primer. The whole law of 9680 is very, very, very long and contains things such as, you know, when you fail to pay your rent and get an eviction, and then you leave your house on the property and abandon it, like what the landlord has to do. Well, that's not what most people are concerned about. Most people who are looking into their rights are looking into, you know, how do I sell my home? Not necessarily the, you know, the person who's abandoned their property. That's more written so that the landlord understands what they have to do in an abandoned property situation. Not that it doesn't affect a tenant, especially if a tenant's been wrongfully, if their property's been wrongfully declared abandoned. But I just think it's it helps make the statute accessible to normal people.
No, it does a really good job of, you know, sometimes issues involve, you know, several statutes, and it kind of captures them and puts them all in one place. It's not the precise detail of it, but it gives you an overview with, you know, applicable phrases that are meaningful, incorporated, and it's all in one place. So it's pretty defeating if you're reading statute and they refer you to another part of the statute and you have to thumb through that part of a statute to find what the reference is and then go back. You know, it gets overwhelming for people. So it does that. And actually with each of these documents, there's an index that lists all the statutes. So you can find them easily. You don't have to even go through this. So it's turned out to be pretty convenient for people.
Great. No, I think that was getting that up and available, and glad to hear it's been helpful and getting utilized and distributed on that. So I think we can mark that one off of being done and completed. And with that, Ken, any other updates on the trainers doing the yearly trainings for the owners and managers?
Well, we're in the process of identifying additional attorneys that are participants with nonprofits, such as some of them are CDRCs, where the attorney that we've got in mind will be a member of that CDRC nonprofit and provide landlord training, just like MHCO or OPOA. And that way you're going to get, I think, a broader tenant perspective of landlord training, and it will be offered and on the schedule like any other training session. So it's going to give us, give park owners and landlords more options as to how they receive that training. So right now, all of the training that's done, the participant organizations are using attorneys that are basically they hire. And so that's why some of the messages that go out in training are not covered as more broadly as they might be, given a different perspective, although I think they do a pretty good perspective of it currently. But that has been one of the concerns, especially since we lost a longtime trainer. So that's put more load on the whole landlord training mission. And so now we're trying to provide more trainers, and these trainers are going to be more oriented coming from nonprofits that aren't related to a manufactured home, but more closely tied to mediation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and are you able to share which ones that are working that way and when that may launch, or any particulars? Or
well, it's pretty embryonic right now. We've identified I don't think there's any security issue with it, but we've been working with Miles in Lane County, and the attorney that we're thinking of who showed interest is Matthew Johnson. And so we've also put out feelers to Resolutions Northwest, but I haven't identified an attorney in that area. But the idea is that they will be offering Zoom trainings, and they should have a pretty broad access to participants throughout the state.
Great.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that is going to be a Zoom based, interactive that way, and to get it a broader one out there. That's, I think, a great way to broaden out that network of trainers, because that has been the concern, being that there were two and now there's one, and how that's going to be sustainable over time.
Well, actually, there are two, OPOA, but they were reluctant to put a schedule out, and there were some they were concerned that they had to have a certain number of participants that in order to make it viable, financially viable for their attorneys at OPOA. We've spoken to those folks, and we're hoping to have a schedule up for OPOA, in the next couple of days, hopefully. but they've agreed to schedule training sessions for September 14th, I believe, and then November 9th. And those will be full 4-hour Zoom sessions. And so we're trying to get that posted as we speak.
All right. Okay, and with that, we can move on to Carla. And I know a couple of the pieces are talking about the Exhibit D, and also tasked you with giving an update of where the contracting process is for the CDRCs around the state, because as of that April meeting, the minutes you saw, there were only 4 that had been completed, so.
So this is the Exhibit D. This is the one that Heather reached out and asked us to create the Exhibit D in a PDF form. And I guess I wasn't really sure why she needed the PDF form of it, because, you know, I'm not sure. Brian, maybe you have a little bit insight. Were you guys was there a problem with the link for the Exhibit D and being able to submit this one electronically, the one?
I think it was more that often it was a different person, and I think she was looking for a PDF version to be able to basically have a record for the person who is doing the intake and phone call keys, to be able to just remember what the key pieces are to gather.
Okay, so we did create a paper form for those mediation centers that wanted a PDF form of the Exhibit D. We didn't do that for Exhibit E because that's the participant survey. And so I believe, and so we have this available. And so that's what so we have that available. So that's what we've done. We have that for the mediation centers. And then the other piece, and it's really important because I was talking to Rick today, and that we do have so can I, Judy, can I share my screen? Please.
Yes, Carla, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. So. So I can share. I'm not used to sharing through Zoom on my desktop. So how do I get to my desktop? Goodness. Do I have to have it open? Do I have to have it open on my screen to be able to share it with Zoom?
I believe so.
What was that?
I believe so.
Okay, give me 1 second. Sorry, guys.
Sure.
I'm used to Teams. So I'm gonna. I'll bring it up. Just make it faster. So we have all of the can you see this?
Yeah.
We're not seeing anything.
So how?
Carla, you want to shoot it to me in an email?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm not.
That's all right.
You're fine.
So let me, so I'll give you an update. So we only have 2 mediation centers that did not participate in the mediation. It was Yamhill and Lincoln City. And so that left 2 that we did not get contracts signed, grant agreements signed. And so those are the only two that we did not get. And then we're working on the 50, I mean, and I know we don't have a lot of mediation centers here, so Brian, I'm kind of talking to you.
Yeah,
You know, on the $50,000 grant. And what I'm doing is I'm sharing, what I'm doing, I'm going to share the invoice for that grant in the expense report. I'm going to share that information really quick.
and Patrick can definitely message and share stuff out, so.
Okay.
I'd be happy to.
Okay, so I'm gonna share that. So because, and because what's gonna happen is I'm gonna handle the mediation part of the invoicing, and I'm gonna have Judy's gonna be doing invoicing for the $50,000 grants. That's good. I believe it's in procurement right now. And so and that's gonna be for program and administration expenses only. And so but I'm doing all the invoicing, and I'm gonna work with her. I created the invoices and then the expense reports. And so I'm going to share when Judy gets that, I'm going to have her share the screen so I can kind of go over that. But let's go back to the exhibit D. I was talking with Rick today, and we have several mediation centers. So those are really important because it gives us an idea of how many mediations are being done by the mediation centers, because theoretically in the past we based it on the grant amounts, and I've talked to Ken about this too, has been based on how many manufactured homes have been in your counties. And right now, because we have mediation centers that have been given grants, assigned grant agreements, but have not turned in any mediation, have not been invoicing. So that money is just sitting there. And so I was talking to Rick today, and when we do our next round of grants, we were talking about how we want to look at that differently and base it more on mediations, and those who don't submit any invoices or haven't done any mediation at all will look at different money amounts. So that means those who run out of money, who are doing a lot of mediation, we would look at the different money amounts that would get for each grant mediation centers.
So if I'm understanding, there's actually numerous centers around this who have not submitted an invoice from last year, even though it took so long and they got approved, and those pieces. And are they still able to do that at this point? Where's the cut going to?
Well, the cutoff, we stopped, the cutoff for last year was July. So we don't have, so now they need to start submitting for this new year for
Say good
July.
time.
But we don't have, I mean, they don't submit invoicing. So
Yeah, I guess that was the catch. I know we're in a new fiscal year, and that's where one to do some outreach, because they may not be aware that it changed from a per case basis to general. I'm not sure, and partly why I bring it up is I know they have an association meeting at the end of this month, so.
yeah, and I've reached out to them, and I think you received an email saying I needed all of the invoices for last year by the end of this last week, so that I could get the invoices out for the following year for the current amounts. And I haven't heard back from 8 centers. So, and some of them haven't submitted invoices at all. So I have to continue to do that. So, are you ready, Judy?
I think so.
Okay.
I hope so. I'm gonna share
It
the
doesn't matter.
monthly expense.
It's thinking about it.
Is it opening for you, Judy? There, okay. So this is, so this is gonna be this is Hillsborough, I just use an example. So this is exactly like the grant. Oh, shoot. So anyway, so we did it, we're allowing for the 50,000 for the billing. It says Q1 September, Q2 October, November. And I didn't have time to manipulate this one for you guys, but
Right.
we're allowing you guys to bill monthly for the 50,000. But it says Q1, it's gonna be July through September. And then it looks, so Brian, it's gonna be basically exactly like the invoicing for the mediation ones, and it'll draw down the amounts just like before, but we're allowing you to do it monthly. So this is January through March, but for the month of January. And so then and so it'll just have, but it's just for program administration expenses. And then so it'll just exactly like, but it says Q4, June Q4, so that for billing purposes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and for these, will the centers need to submit an RFA to access these funds, or is this an add-on to the
This is
centers?
gonna be an addendum. And so then the next one that I have created, you'll see if we can share that screen, that will have to be submitted with your invoice each month is, if she can share it, so that we have. So what I'll do is when the grants are done, you guys assign your $50,000 grant. This is what will be with so I've created this, and it's for each month is a description of expenses. And so when you fill out for the date and the description, it doesn't have to be a super detailed. It's just, a description of the expense, the amount, and it'll draw down, it'll do the total. And then when you hit the next month, the 50,000, it'll draw down just like the other ones do. So then you'll submit the monthly expense report with your invoice every month.
Yeah.
So,
And with this, I'm also making the assumption it would be based on the fiscal year, not the calendar year as it's currently organized, or?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. And so, but it'll draw down. So there's no math for you guys involved, just like the other invoices I've created. So you'll have a running balance for yourself. Every time you submit one, when you hit March, it'll have your current amount and that type of thing. Go ahead, Patrick.
Thank you. I'm just trying to check myself if I'm tracking this. So it sounds like the regular payments, the ongoing, just regular contract payments, those are those being submitted quarterly now?
Yes.
Okay. And so then this $50,000 one, is this being submitted quarterly as well, or is this being submitted monthly?
We're allowing them to submit it monthly only because Rick and I had a discussion that allowed them, because of the grants being signed so late that they probably have more expenses, and that we wanted the mediation centers to be able to bill a monthly so that they could get their money for the 50,000 faster.
Gotcha. I know that invoicing and all the paperwork with the base part, there was a big conversation about shifting that to quarterly to help with some of that administrative pieces. And it sounds like, I so appreciate it. It sounds like you're saying you're allowing it monthly so that they can draw that or get access to it quicker.
Yes.
If they choose to do it quarterly, just with their other pieces, and they're giving you 3 months worth, is that acceptable, or would
Yes, yeah, that's
that
why
would-
it says, that's why we did the quarterly, so it says,
Okay.
say July through September, but then it'll say July, yes, we'll work with that as well, yeah.
perfect? That's what I kind of thought I was hearing, but I just wanted to make sure. Thank you so much, Carla.
2 options, yeah. So anyway, so this will be, so again, there will be no math involved, it'll draw down, so you guys will have the exact amount, and then it'll be just like the other ones, we'll approve. You'll get a copy of this and your invoice signed and approved, and then we'll submit it, and the same, and you won't have any more, there won't be the ACH, you had to do the ACH forms, we just added in the DISH as a different grant, and it'll pull from that same DISH program, and it'll be the same payment timeline, exact same thing.
And
Carla, I'm gonna do a John thing. And where it says expense report must be submitted with quarterly invoice.
Oh,
Gives a-
oh, got it. Okay. Thanks. Well, yeah. We'll get that. Okay. So this, we're still in the process of modifying all these. So I was just, but this was just for you guys today. So great. But, so yeah, but this is for the, as soon as the grants are executed and out to you guys, and we'll do the same thing I did before, Brian. I'll have Judy and I meet with you guys, well, go with you guys, because she's going to be processing all of these with the mediation centers.
Right. And that this will be for this current fiscal year, so it'll be the 22-23.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is that one that you were able to do that same amount for all the centers, if I remember correctly, or did it vary based on was there a ratio to the grant amount?
No, this one, every center got 50,000.
Okay, that's right.
So that's what I've been working on. And then I just need to reach out to the other centers for their final invoice for the 21-22. The last year invoicing, so I can get out your new invoices for the 22-23 year.
Yeah, and Patrick, I'm kind of volunteering you here. I'm just wondering if offline it would be helpful for you to know what 8 centers didn't invoice and see if they need any support to going forward, or would you like to know who those 8 centers are that never
If it's-
invoiced last year?
If it's possible to share that, then that would be wonderful, and I'd be more than happy to reach out and see if they're needing any support. I was also thinking about just sharing, just reaching out to everybody and asking how they're doing.
And I could, Patrick, I'm more than willing, like one of the centers didn't bill at all last grant cycle. And then they haven't billed this cycle either. I'm more than willing to have that conversation with you, Patrick. I'm not sure I should do that right in this.
No, I didn't, definitely just,
fair.
this isn't the venue. My concern, Carly, and why I'm asking him to step in is we've had a number of new directors at a lot of the centers. And I'm just concerned that with the handoff, being that this was such a moving target for so long, that it may have gotten dropped and may not be on the newer director's radar. And
Yeah,
there's nothing more frustrating than learning afterwards that you had some dollars you could have had access to and missed that opportunity. So
sure.
that's great. So you guys.
And
can
did you have a
connect on that.
question?
Yeah, that's great. And you were, Carly, you were mentioning that there were some centers that haven't invoiced. And I don't know if you know why they haven't invoiced, but I know that with the contracts taking a while, I'd heard murmurs, and I don't know if this is the reason, but I heard rumors that folks were they were going to provide service, but they weren't sure that the contracts were going to get set. So they wouldn't even track that stuff. And they didn't feel like the reporting it and sending it off to MMCRC had been onerous. And so they were kind of like, I'm not sure. So it would be great for us to check in with those folks just to see where they're at, make sure they're checked in with the understanding. And then also you mentioned that you and Rick were talking about looking at kind of historical how much centers are billing for, and then adjusting grant amounts for that. I just want to put a cautious pin on that analysis because we've done so much work around shifting the billing. The billing has been an issue with how much has been coming in, the records that have been coming in. Some centers, like I said, have said that they just weren't billing because it was a lot of effort. So I'm not sure that the billing data is the best data to be doing an historical analysis on. And if we've done some great work in the committee around making that process more efficient, getting it to a quarterly place, that I have a feeling we might see a different type of, the next year or two is going to look a little different in what those activities are looking like. And so I'm just nervous about using the last year or the last 2 years as a historical database to draw from to create future grant amounts. I don't feel like it's a solid data set.
Yeah, and I think we were looking also at the exhibit Ds and stuff as far as the information from the centers too, is how many mediations that does that make sense as well? We're gonna base it off that, but that any information, and again, that was just a discussion we were having because we were just looking at the centers that the monies is just sitting there and not being used. And we didn't, and no, we know that there's centers that are out of money. They've used all their money already this year. I mean, for this grant cycle, and we don't, that, and they're
Yeah.
just been asking for money. So that was the discussion we were having.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
sounds good.
So that's kind of what we're working on, and that we'll get those out when the grant's signed, and then, and I'll work on getting, Brian, the new invoices, because that was a question for you for the next year, so you can invoice for 22, 23.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
perfect.
great, and with that, and I know that will involve Willie, the data person. I'm wondering if at that October meeting, we might be able to get a presentation on what what the outputs are from the exhibit Ds and parties, as well as what the total numbers are to help get this process moving in real time. And if we need to help support other centers in collecting data and getting it entered, we can get that identified.
How hard, has it been hard to get the participants to do the surveys?
Well, that's what I'm curious, because often they get sent the link, and at which point we don't have any
Oh.
mechanism on our side to know if, oh, yeah, it was actually submitted. And
Okay,
so just that general bit of, how many surveys are you getting back and how many exhibit Ds have been submitted, just that.
all right. that's
Happy
something-
to work offline before that meeting to help look at.
Okay.
Put
Maybe
together.
Okay, I'll have a conversation with Rick, and maybe we can get Willie in our next meeting, and he can give us an update as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one thing about, because I've had a number of mediations, and they initially started out being in person, of course. And so at the end, they would hand out the survey to the participants, and it was a very simple form to fill out. And it would get filled out and handed off, and then we'd walk out. But I'm wondering if with doing things on Zoom and having a link, if there's participants who just don't do it. Because it's easy to not do it when it's on the computer. It's just a thought. We'd have to ask the centers that do the mediation, how many participants are actually doing the surveys now.
It's a great point, Pat. What I've heard just very generally is that the paper surveys, like you're saying, get a much higher response rate than when the electronic surveys, and OSCDR is doing other electronic surveys, and we've seen a dip in it as well. It's like it can be super efficient and awesome, but it creates like almost less accountability or something. I think that's what you're saying. When they're able to just fill it out right there in the room, you do get a higher response rate. So it is something general that we've been dealing with too.
Yeah, and it may be one of, if we need to look at creating a practice of, oh, there's a mediation that's scheduled, of even if it's helpful to snail mail them out to the parties in advance or something with a return envelope for some sort of mechanism. And that's what I'm curious, how many actually are in the system and can.
Yeah, I wanted to mention to Patrick there is some older data in the last 2 years. It's pretty sparse, but yeah, there is some more accurate data other than the last couple of years pre-COVID. The other issue is many of the parks, I can remember Chip Coker, because he had such a wealth of talent there, being close to the university, he never really submitted invoices because he had plenty of money for whatever reason, and it was cumbersome, and so yeah, you'll find that different CDRC executives. And regarding the evaluations, We have some numbers on that, and historically, we were getting about 65–70% of people responding. And you can't force people. It's all pre-COVID where they were a captured audience. But again, it was about 65–70% of people responded.
That's a great response rate. That's great.
So I think the the advent of this, the digital environment we're in is going to cause more effort on the individual. So I'm not sure how that, that portends, but the easier that we can make it, obviously, the better it'll be.
Great. And with that, I think that takes care of those two items. The last one on the agenda is our bylaws state that terms and elections are for a 2-year period, which leaves us doing nominations and elections for chair and co-chair. Currently, as you're aware, I'm the chair, and Tara Cleveland from Gresham is the vice chair. And I need to do nominations and that, and for that position, and process-wise, don't know if we want to do nominations and then do elections by email, or what is the best practice that that is established in committee rules. Don't know if who would have that answer. Without Rick here.
You mean like a regular housing committee rules?
Right, if there's a regular housing, if there's if they have a established guideline or process of how nominations and elections for chair and vice chair works on their committees. And if not, we can just do nominations, and being that Tara is not present, if and Heather is also not here, if we want to do this by email, if that would work for folks, or what would be most efficient.
I would vote for that because there's a handful of members that are not here today. I'm going to nominate John. I'm jokingly saying that because I doubt he will do it. But anyway, I think we should do it over email because there's some members that aren't here.
Great. Is that something you can take care of then, Judy?
Yes.
Okay, so probably 2 rounds, one for nominations and then elections.
Yes.
And would encourage you just to send out the whole roster of current members, and we can go from there.
Okay. Thank you.
So great. So we'll get that conducted by email prior to the next meeting then. And with that, anything else good for the order? If not, we can adjourn. A reminder that our next meeting is October 5th from 10 to noon.
I was thinking that I could contact Chuck with MHCO and ask him if he might he puts out emails on a pretty regular basis. If he might ask for landlord reps from the east side of the mountains. And if he says yes to that, then we could write a little blurb, or I could write one. You guys could look at it to see if it's acceptable. we can go from there.
Yeah, no, that would be great, and I think the main contact of who that would need to run through is Rick and.
Rick,
Yeah,
okay. Okay,
and,
I'll do that.
that would be great. Anything else for the good order? If not,
Well, one more thing.
yeah,
Okay, so MHCO has a fall conference in October. It's about the third week of October. And there's a lot of presentations, which I've always found helpful. John in the past came and did presentations or joined with somebody and did them. That was how I first came to know John. Anyway, I was thinking that maybe I'm going to ask Chuck. I've made suggestions before about presentations. Maybe we need to have a dispute resolution committee from someplace do a presentation.
that would be great. As a conference location been selected?
It's always Eugene. It's always the Valley River Center. They're the hotel, and then they have conference rooms. And they have they have a lot of parking. So it's, and they're right off the freeway. So that's why it's been there for years.
No, that would be definitely something to think of. Individual in-depth presentation and or panel or something along those
Yes.
lines between the office of housing and as well as others, I think would be.
It would be interesting to see what landlord questions are to get an idea, because there would be quite a few people.
Yeah, no, that would be a great piece and be helpful. Would personally have some interest in others, so. Great. And there it is, right on the calendar.
Yep, there it is. So what they do is Monday is kind of electives, and Tuesday would be a lot of requirements for state requirements. And for landlords, you would need to be present, and you know, they have a way. You wear your name tag, you hand in your name tag at the end, so that they can give you your documentation that you were there, and then they let the state know that you had your training.
And yeah, and I don't know if that's something that Oregon Housing and Community Services between those would like to try to have a table. I don't know if they have tables or do.
They do. They have tables.
Well, we've done it in the past.
So now would be the time, and might be a helpful one on the word placement. You guys have so many different programs to have that in that broad set, so would be great. And so that's someone gonna touch from the office, touch bases with Rick then, and if so, would it be getting hold of you, Pat, as the liaison and coordinate that, or what's?
Well, I think what I'm going to do is throw this out to Chuck
Okay,
and get his response, and then I can get back to Rick. I'll get back to Rick about whatever Chuck has said.
great. So it would be a good outreach to get that representation too, so opportunity. So with that, anything else folks have? And if not, have a great day and stay cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
We did it. We did it. You don't know how nervous.
Oh, I
Okay.
understand. I understand totally, but they're so nice. They're so easygoing.
Yeah.
And you did great. Let's go in here and debrief. for a moment.
Yes. Oh. Yay. Thank God I got. Okay. I know, right?